And welcome to the Striped Onion Show, where we peel them back good. And now to our host, the man with the plan, Sergeant Peel.
I love that intro, and it has been a month since I've heard it. So we can't do this much longer because I'm going to tell you, we're getting back on the show. We're going to get back on the road. We're going to make this thing happen. Today's show, though, I'm going to tell you, we got a great guy, Captain Jim Woods. He's a Charleston County Sheriff's Office right here in Charleston, South Carolina. Great friend of mine, great friend of the first responder community and the law enforcement community. He got a lot of years of service, too, and he's probably forgot more than I probably know. With nothing else. I don't need to say nothing else. I'm telling you, he's a good guy. Today's show, though, it's a little different. I want y'all to know that we're very target specific on today's show. The reason why we didn't do a show a couple weeks ago is because we've sent a lot of our peer team members from around the nation, from all over the East Coast and the Midwest, to the nation's capital, to where the Capitol Police work. And we have laid our hands on them, so to say. We put our peer team in work, and we put it in a unique way. And I'm going to tell you, Jim's going to talk about that today. Jim's a part of the South Carolina Law Enforcement Assistance Program, just as I am myself. And we both were a part of teams that traveled to the D.C. area to assist the police up there with the mental health recovery related to the January 6th riot. There's some guys up there and some gals up there that really have a lot going on. And I know today's intro is a little longer, but I want y'all to think about this for a minute. This show is very, very, it's a hard show today, but it's a good show. Today is a 1 week anniversary since the Capitol Police lost another officer feloniously. January 6th was a tough day because they lost an officer. And then again, a week ago, they lost yet another one. So our hearts and our thoughts and our prayers are lifting up all the men and women of the U.S. Capitol Police Department, all 4 divisions up there. If any of them hear this, just know, guys, we love you to death. We're thinking of you. We're praying for you. And I want to get right into the show. But first, let's do this real quick. Y'all hit that share button. Share it across your social media platforms. I don't care what it is. I don't care what you listen to us on, if it's YouTube, if it's Spotify, I don't care. Just share the word out there. We want people to hear the true impacts that the critical incident stress management community has on making our first responders even healthier. So without further ado, I want to get right into today's show with Jim. All right, I got my buddy Jim back. How are you, Jim?
I'm doing well, Sarge. How about you?
I have been doing really good. We've been busy. The law enforcement world has been busy as a whole, and I think you would agree with me. So my buddy Jim here is from down around Charleston. He's on the peer team, the state peer team with me. He's part of the Low Country peer team, a bunch of people down there. Me and Jim's worked together for years, and I know I've already said that once today, but I got to say it again. Jim's such a good guy, so I'm glad he jumped on here with me. Hey, Jim, take a minute. Tell everybody how you got involved in peer support. And without telling your age, you got to tell how long you've been in law enforcement, because I took my socks off and I still can't count that high. So go for it.
I hear you. Well, good to be with you. Like you said, I'm Jim Woods with the Charleston County Sheriff's Office. I'm a retired state trooper. I did 30 years there, and I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 11. So if you do the math, that's 41 years, and I have not decided yet, but I think I'm gonna make law enforcement a career, but still thinking about it.
I figured. Not sure. Not sure.
Yeah, not sure. I mean, I don't want to rush into things, but got into peer support in 1997 when Frankie Lingard, who was a trooper, he was my classmate. He was murdered on I-95. And that was the first peer debriefing that I experienced. And I got involved with peer after that. And poor Eric Skidmore has been putting up with me since 1997. And so been there, lost some friends, along the way, line of duty deaths and all kind of things, and just have stayed active with peer support. Peer support's it's a big part of my heart. I really, really enjoy it.
Well, and I'll say this: you said a name that's been said on many other shows by many other guests. Mr. Eric Skidmore did an interview with him back in the beginning of this whole show. So to my listeners, there's another one talking about Eric Skidmore. Eric's such a good guy. So
they don't get any better. And I shudder to think, Sarge, what would happen had Eric not had this vision. Where would we be? Where would the state be? Because we are well respected across the nation for our peer support. What we have here and our organization, how it's organized, how we conduct business. And it's all because of Eric Skidmore. He had the vision and he took it and ran with it. And there have been thousands of people that have reaped the benefit.
Well, and it's funny that you say that, because that's actually what we're going to talk about today and it's got to do with Eric, to be honest with you. But recently, both you and I, we've been involved in some peer team deployments out of South Carolina. And it's got to do with Eric Skidmore and his contacts and his reach. And you said a minute ago, if it wasn't for his vision around the state, what would it be like? But truthfully, around the nation, what would it be like? Because we got on these deployments. This is just another example of some of the work that not just Eric Skidmore, but the state peer team does with South Carolina. It's not just South Carolina. We got involved with this one that we're going to talk about today with the U.S. Capitol Police. These guys have gone through some horrendous stuff over the last, you're going on 4 months now, and it doesn't seem like there's an end in sight. And our hearts and our prayers are pouring out to them. And I don't like to take Jim's words out of his mouth, because I want Jim to tell you about it. But, when Eric I don't know that Eric, he was probably involved in a brainstorming strategy on how to help with the guys from Virginia who were pretty much boots on the ground up there. So when you put everybody together, you started with one team that was almost immediately deployed going on 2.5 months ago. And you were a part of that team. And then myself going on a team about 5 weeks after that. So, it is what it is.
Yes, and those folks have a lot of challenges. And one of the biggest ones that stands out to me is if we have an officer, heaven forbid, that is killed in the line of duty, and he is killed on ABC Street, we have the opportunity to where the folks that are hit hard by this event, they don't go to ABC Street for a while. Right. And these guys have to report in to duty every day and work the area that this incident occurred in, and they can't get away from it. And they also are driving into what resembles a war zone. There's fencing, there's National Guard, soldiers out there, and they are working a ton of hours. They are, their stress level is an overdrive, and it's heartbreaking because they are such good people. When I first arrived there, one of the first things that really stood out to me was just what great folks these guys are, these guys and girls, and they do a great job. They provide a service, but they were never expecting for an unruly crowd to come into the Capitol like what happened. I don't think a tragic event, you never expect for it to happen. But something of this magnitude, I don't think anybody ever expected it. And they've been through it. They have been through it.
Well, and you talked about, the way you described, for instance, Charleston, ABC Street, if something happened like that down there, same thing where I'm from. If, we've got the luxury of kind of rerouting people and moving people around, and even admin level. You can move them to an admin position just to, kind of take them out of the picture for just a minute and let them, really, really process it and get their wits back to normal, and maybe even go through some CISM stuff, hopefully. But when you look at the Capitol, I think my thoughts of it is if you're at your house with your shift and they kind of come, some of the bad guys come in your house and you're fighting to save your house, and one of your one of your buddies of your shift here, they get killed trying to help you protect your house. That's my mentality of how these guys are probably feeling. And I've heard it out of some of their mouths, but it really is just that's their house. I mean, that's where they go to work, but that's their house. They're there to protect it.
It is, and they're very proud of it, and they take ownership of it. And they were dealing with other things prior to this. I learned so much from these guys. One of the things I learned was they love tours. When school kids come into the Capitol and they walk around and they're in awe, these officers love that. And pursuant to COVID, they haven't had tours in over a year. So they've been dealing with that and dealing with some other things. And then on top of that, this happens. And I just, my heart breaks for them. I had one guy that told me that he's standing on the front of the Capitol looking out, and he sees just hordes of people running to the Capitol. And he said he got on his cell phone and called his wife and said, "I love you, but I doubt I go home today. I doubt that I make it out of here." And that's just heart-wrenching. It really is.
Yeah, we heard that a couple of times too, talking about how they knew that they were in a fight for their life. And as scary as that sounds, I mean, to the listeners out there, I mean, really put yourself in their shoes. You're fighting for your house. That's what you're fighting for. That's what these guys were doing. They were trying to protect their house. That's what they're paid to do. But these guys, their heart is to protect their house, and that's exactly what they're supposed to do. There's a whole lot more into the ball game with probably finger pointing and politics that play into it. But when you look deep down at the core, with everybody that we talked to, from the team 2 that went with your team on team 1, you talk about some of the most genuine, honest, down to earth, good police officers that you'll ever see working U.S. Capitol. And we got threatened. I'm going to ask you, Jim, did you get threatened? We got threatened that if we tried to bring any of them Capitol Police to South Carolina, that they were going to hunt us down. Did you ever hear that?
Yeah, I heard that several times. And, of course, where I live down here in Charleston, when I told them, who I was, and I was from Charleston, South Carolina. Oh my goodness, Charleston, I want to retire. I want to move down there, and a ton of them have my cards, and they're going to come down. And I said, you come down and you let me know, and I will stop everything I'm doing, and you will go on a 50-cent tour down here. But you were right. Some of the other folks said, let me tell you something now, you steal my partner from me, we're going to have a problem. I'm going to come down there and find you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I heard. The one thing I learned, and just this is just a conversation, me and Jim, we're talking about how this was. We want y'all to hear what a lot of politics and a lot of mainstream media really is throwing out of proportion. But a lot of what we heard really was just that. I felt like there's a town in South Carolina called Jackson, South Carolina. And back before the police chief passed a couple of years ago, their rookie officer had 17 years at the department.
Wow.
And that was like, it's unheard of. You don't hear of that. And I mean, it was a 6-man department. The rookie had 17 years. I felt like the U.S. Capitol Police Department was pretty dang close to that, because every time I turned around, I think the youngest one I heard was 5 years of service. Everybody else, the average was 18, 20. Then you had some that were sitting there for, been working there for 30 years. And they love their job. They love working there. They don't like some of the circumstances, but they love their job. Yeah. You talk about the stress with COVID and stuff like that. Since the riot, their stress levels have gone through the roof, which is one of the reasons why we got deployed. They've got a lot. When you think about stress levels, yeah, Jim, you said it nail on the head. When you walk up in there, and this was my first time to DC, and to go up into the Capitol and see the razor wire, see this it's ugly metal fencing. And you're like, you really did feel like it was a war zone. I mean, you see all these beautiful buildings, all these beautiful surroundings, Library of Congress, the House, the Senate, and all this stuff. And you're just like, this is not how it's supposed to be here. This is not how it's supposed to be.
It is not. And then, of course, they had another incident last week.
Yeah.
And, you know, anytime that a police officer is injured, loses his life, we all get this feeling.
Absolutely.
The feeling in the pit of your stomach. Well, when this occurred, I got a double dose because I know those guys. The poor officer that was killed, when we would leave to go to lunch every day, we went through his gate and spoke to him and came back and spoke to him coming back. And he was just such a genuine, nice guy, smile on his face. And again, you know, Charleston, South Carolina, I'm coming down there, you know, and I said, come on down. My son lived in Washington for a couple of years. He's an architect, and he lived further out, but I was not prepared or used to what I saw when I got to the Capitol, with the fences, with the wires, with the soldiers. I really wasn't. You know, when you go to Washington, you have that certain degree of security at all times. But to go through that and to think of these guys every day, they go through that, and that is there because of the incident. It's a tough deal for them. It's very tough. And on top of that, the incredible hours that they've been working. You know, I had one poor female officer that told me she took a day of sick leave to wash clothes because she hadn't had enough time off. And, you know, then also looking ahead. They do not know what is ahead for them, or is the fence going to stay? You know, are they going to move it? I would think that the incident last week is going to have an effect on that, and what they do with the fencing and what they do with the security there. And, you know, they're not in a situation to say the incident occurred January the 6th, we're moving ahead. They were beginning to move ahead when the incident occurred last week. So
yeah, I would agree.
It's a terrible thing. And, you know, Sarge, something that I've always talked about is when we lose an officer, a lot of folks mean well. And if you drive around this state, you see roadways named for the officers, or build. You know, we had down here, the FOP Lodge was named for Corporal Jeff Johnson of the Highway Patrol, who was a close friend of mine. And when I go to that building, I have those feelings, you know, the feelings you get. These guys have the feelings every day when they go to work. Every day they see the fence. Every day, and I'm sure that you guys went through it, they showed us the damage that still exists to the building.
Yeah, it was still there when I went. Yeah.
And it's a tough deal. And they're, like I said, they're such great people. And I remember I met a sergeant there that I was very impressed with, and he and I still stay in contact. And it was a roll call, and they were calling these names. And I said, look here, bud, we don't have last names like that in the South. We have Smith, Jones, things like that. I said, what in the world? And he said, hey, we are the World Police Department. We have officers from all over the world that work here. And they do. And they are just super guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, I'll say this: when the one thing I noticed that kind of, we're going to kind of get into this topic a little bit too, but when you talk about CISM and how you respond to different type calls for service to help other agencies or to help your own people in your department, this one was definitely outside the norm. I mean, you had that conversation before we went live with this show today. You want to talk about the, not really ambidextrous, but, you know, the versatility, the capability of CISM to mold itself to just about everything there is out there. This whole scenario is another reason why CISM is so important. Jim, when we were talking earlier, give me your thoughts on that right there, because that's big.
Well, first off, I was extremely and am still extremely impressed with my peer support folks. All of my partners, all of my brothers and sisters that do it, because, those of you that will watch this and how a peer support debriefing takes place. It's structured. You come in, most of the time we sit in a circle, we introduce ourselves, and it is very structured. And this situation, we knew very quickly that was not going to work. Number one, it's a huge agency, and you had a bunch of officers that were involved in the incident, meaning, to give you an example, if something happened with one of our shifts at the sheriff's office, you're looking, 12 to 14 officers. We bring them in, we put them in a circle. We have a structured question and answer session. We do some teachings. Well, when you got over 2,000 people that are involved in an incident, we can't do that. The circle would be large, very large. And so, what we decided to do very quickly is we decided to float around to all of the posts, the entry points into the building. And what we would do was walk up and just talk to folks and introduce ourselves. And we would not immediately go into, were you here on January the 6th? Were you working that day? We wouldn't do that. We would just say, hey, I would say, I'm Jim Woods. I'm with the Charleston County Sheriff's Office. I live down in Charleston and Summerville, right outside of Charleston. And, how are you doing? And they'd say, South Carolina. I'd say, yes, we're here because we care about you. We want to check on you guys and make sure that you're doing okay. And that's kind of how we did. The structured part that you and I are both, so used to doing would not work in this type situation. And, I remember like it was yesterday, one of the first guys that I met, he said, well, you want me to take you on a tour? Well, the first thing that went through my mind was, I don't want you to I don't want to put you out and make you walk me around this building and take me on a tour. But I found out very quickly that that's how they want to show you the building. They love the place. They take great pride in the place. And just like you said earlier, it's their house. Well, but once we started walking around in the house, just like if you come to visit me at my house, I'm comfortable in it. And you and I are going to talk because I'm comfortable. Well, when we started walking with these folks and they got comfortable, then they started talking to us. And then it would come up, yes, I was here on January the 6th. Yes, this is where I was. You spoke earlier about the tenure there, the folks, how much time they have. Well, I tell you, the first group I had, there was a female that had 36 years, and there were two other males. One had 37 years and one had 32 years. And it was the same thing. We started talking to them, just talking about the weather because it was cold and snowing when I was there. We talked about that. We talked about different things, where we were from, and it kind of opened it up. But I hope that makes sense to you. What we could not do is we could not utilize the structured CISM method that we use, all of the time when we do our debriefings. It had to be completely different.
About the best
of our folks with how they handled it.
And ours the same way. About the best way to describe it is a kind of a team mobile deployment for one-on-one action, because that's about how it went, was one-on-one nonstop, one-on-one. And like we do everything else, there's no documentation. We're not doing anything like that. We're just strictly going out. You guys did a split shift, if I recall. We did a little bit more. We changed it up a little bit to make sure we hit different shifts as they come and go. We went out there at night. We worked late into the night one time. So it was different. But like you said, one thing you hit back on a minute ago, and I'm going to go back to this. talking about how these guys are, the way they come to work. You know, some of them, like if you're assigned to the Library of Congress, you got the same way in and out every day. If you're assigned to the actual Capitol building itself, you got the same way in and out every day. Now, the sad part of that is that same way in and out is the same way that is still messed up. The place is still messed up. The windows are boarded up. It's the fencing's messed up. And if you come in through the south entrance on Constitution there, that's where Evans was tragically killed last week. So now they're having to look at that.
They are. There's no escape. There's no escape for them.
No.
And that's the thing. And it's like you were working. You know, one of your fellow officers gets killed, and you were working in that scene day in and day out. You know, for as long as you're there. I mean, that's how these guys. That's how it is for them.
Yeah. Now, to my listeners, I want y'all to understand that South Carolina is not the only peer team that's gone up there. Virginia's got a team, but there's also been fire peer support teams. There's been other law enforcement peer support teams. There's been from all over the United States. This is just kind of an experience and explanation of how South Carolina's team went up there. And it's been very unique. South Carolina, in fact, the show airing on Friday today, yesterday, South Carolina's third team went up. So probably right now, as this show is being aired, they're in the process of getting their IDs, and they're about to be boots on the ground in the Capitol, working exactly where we were a couple of weeks ago and you a couple of months ago. So I'll say this right now. If you're listening to me, if you don't hear anything else, positive thoughts, drop some prayers, because there's going to be a lot of heartache and a lot of communication happening over the next 3 days for the third South Carolina team to go up. And it's only the third of many, because to my understanding, they've got 4 or 5 more already planned to go.
That's correct.
And this is real.
It is, and I plan to go back. Unfortunately, we have a large PGA golf tournament that's going to be here next month in Kiowa Island, so I'm kind of tied up with that. But as soon as I can get finished with that, I plan to go back, because I just feel, I feel a connection with those folks now, and I'd really, I'd like to meet some more of them. But then again, I've made some good friends with the folks that I already, that I've already talked to and met up there, and I want to check on those guys too. And I tell you, the key, one thing that really stood out to me is, we do a critical incident debriefing, and the folks come in the room, and you can watch the ones that don't want to say anything, or they don't really, they were voluntold to be there. At the Capitol, I would say, I'm Jim Woods with SC Leap, we're peer support. They immediately thanked us. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for being here. Several of them didn't know what peer support was.
That was what I was about to say.
Yes, they didn't. They'd never heard of it. And I explained it to them, and they said, hey, this is cool stuff. Would y'all consider coming up and teaching us? And I said, of course we would. We would come up in a heartbeat. But nobody was standoffish to us. They were all, I'm here to support you. We love you guys. And they were just open arms, come in here. Yes. Thank you for being here. And, this one lady asked me, a lady officer, she said, you drove all the way from South Carolina up here in the snow. And I said, yes, I did. I said, and I live in the South, and I don't like snow and I don't like cold weather, but I'm here with you, and that was what was so great. And another thing that any of you folks that are watching, listening, whatever, that have been through something like this, that a lot of times, if you watch the media portrayal of an incident you may have been involved in, you may look and say, that's not really what happened, or that's not part of it. When I got there and started talking to these folks, I found out very quickly that I did not know
The
half
truth.
of what they went through.
No kidding.
I'm telling you, just the officers that were injured, the officers calling home, telling their loved ones, "I'm not coming home today." Um, the media has not mentioned a word that these guys have been working 6 days a week, 12 to 16 hours a day. They're trying to cut them back now to 8-hour shifts, but they're still going to work 6 days a week. And the
That's
ones that
minimum.
tell me I had to double, yeah. And the guys that told me, hey, I had to double back. So what I do is I just come out and sleep in my car, and then I come to work tomorrow morning. There's a lot that is going on there, and there's a lot that has gone on there that we don't know about. And those guys, I'm gonna tell you, I wish I had a picture of the entire agency, because you talk about heroes, those guys are heroes. Every one of those men and women up there are heroes.
100% agree with everything you just said. Yeah, that's we heard that more often too. And a couple of things we also heard that, because I mean, you've got all these naysayers out there that are like, well, why didn't they do this, or what if, or all that. Anytime the topic came up, if I ever heard of one person when we were talking to them that said that they weren't directly involved but they were coming, you always heard how far away they were coming from.
Oh,
they don't got take-home cars unless you got one of the dogs, and they got a lot of dogs, but unless you got a dog, you're driving your POV back and forth to work. You're already working. I think up to this point, you're already working 12s.
Yeah.
But a lot of these people live anywhere from a half hour to 2 hours away.
That's the ones that really got me, were the ones that said, we heard about it, and I jumped in the car and I said, well, how far do you? Oh, it took me an hour and a half to get back. Number one, that shows you how dedicated they are, that they're going to drive an hour and a half. But could you think about them? You get a phone call that your brothers and sisters are in the fight for their lives, and it takes you an hour and a half to get there to help them. I can't imagine. I'm so spoiled with, we got an officer calling for help, we're going to be there in 2 minutes, 5 minutes. If they're way out in the county somewhere, but an hour and a half, what is going through your mind?
Yeah.
It's incredible. It really is.
Yeah, I agree with you. And again, Team 3, y'all definitely, I hope y'all are listening. I hope you hear me at some point, even if it's Monday when y'all are coming home and listening to it. Just do me a favor. You do your good work, because we know you're going to do it. Jim, one thing we've always done on the show is take us out with a positive note, or, a good scripture, anything that's on your mind that you want to leave us with a positive note. I like closing it on a positive note. What you got?
Well, I feel like my family of brothers and sisters in law enforcement, which are, I teased and I said something about 41 years and making it a career, but a lot of people ask me, they say, what, you got 41 years on this job. Why are you doing this? And it's because I love my brothers and sisters, and, I'd like to say my brothers and sisters in blue, but we have blue, green, gray, them all. When I went to Washington, I felt like my brothers and sisters, my family, tripled in size by the size of that agency, and just the positive way that we were met, and the way we were treated. And you ask some guy, hey, I like fried lizard skin sandwiches, do you know where you can get them in Washington? And they're gonna tell you. They're gonna let you know, and they're gonna go out of their way that if they don't know, they're gonna find out. Well, that's what it's all about, brother. That's what we're in this job for, is to help people, to help the public, to help each other, and they did that. But I really love those guys. I highly respect them, and I couldn't hold a candle to them, and I had no idea what a Capitol police officer did until I went. And those guys are frigging incredible. They really are. And they are guarding their house, but they know their house. Man, these guys knew. You could go over in a corner somewhere and they'd say, you know, George Washington used to sit over here and take a nap. You know, they know the history of that place inside and out. And
yeah, they do.
They are just incredible historians. And, you know, we never talked about race issues. We never talked about anything like that. We talked about the building, the folks that have been there, the folks that still serving there, and these guys. And it was just super cool. They were just great guys.
Well, brother, I appreciate you taking a minute out of your day to meet with us, talk with us, share your thoughts on the Capitol and the Capitol Police Department and everything they're going through. From all of us here at the show, I'm telling you right now, we really do lift the Capitol Police, not just the Capitol Police, Metro Police that's up there around the DC area, Arlington Police, because a lot of them were involved, Fairfax County, a lot of the agencies that just surround the Capitol that responded, because there's a lot of officers that were really involved in that horrific incident on January 6th. And then again, this past Friday, a week ago today, we lift you guys up again. You just know that we got your back. We're sending everybody we got every time we can, because that's what we like to do. So from everybody here at the SOS show, we hope everyone has a great day, a great week, and God bless. Think about them Capitol officers for us.
God bless you all. It's been my pleasure being with you.
Thanks again for listening, friends. Let me tell you, we are greatly appreciative of your support of the SOS show, the Striped Onion show, and we are just as grateful for the friends we have inside our CISM network. Don't forget to share today's SOS call on your social media platforms. That is critical to getting the word out. And also make sure to leave some comments on whichever platform you listen to us on. We will respond to you. Visit our website at some point, thesosshow.com, and check it out. See what we have there. Sign up for the email notifications about shows and events we have coming up in the future. This is all about the first responders, about their support circles. So we want to make sure that it is impactful. And until next time, we hope everyone has a great day and a great week. Y'all stay safe out there, and God bless.